Welcome back to the Marble and Grain Show. I'm Chef Yos.
I'm Bosh the Butcher.
And today we are going to be talking about different names for different cuts. Are they real? Are they made up? Is it just a Jewish thing? Like, did you go to a kosher restaurant recently and have a New York strip steak? Well, guess what? You didn't. Why is that?
So we have three groups of namings, I'm going to call them. We have names that are named for the way it's cooked. For example, London broil is not a cut. It's a cooking method. It's great that they name the cut for the cooking method. The problem is that most butchers will have at least two different cuts they'll call London broil, and they'll both cook slightly differently, even though it's the same cooking method. For example, another such cut or name is ossobuco. Ossobuco is a dish of a braised shank cut perpendicular to the bone, which gives us this gorgeous cross section, but technically ossobuco is not a cut. It's a shank cut crosswise. We call it ossobuco because that's the use of it.
So technically, it's a shank, so you can have a veal ossobuco, a beef ossobuco, a lamb ossobuco.
Correct. The next category, I would say, is names that were added for regional distinctions or for
Marketing purposes
to set people aside. One of them is the cut's called the Terrace Major. It's a very thin, lean piece of meat from the chuck. It's very, very tender. It's only gained popularity recently. For some reason...
Not under the name Terrace Major, though.
No. You walk into a butcher shop and ask for Terrace Major, they're going to look at you like you have four heads. Usually it's called an oyster steak. Haven't figured out why it's called an oyster steak, other than on a chicken in the back between the thigh, between the pelvic bones and the backbone, you have the oysters of the chicken. And the same thing with a cow.
That's like one muscle, and this is also like a muscle within a whole thing.
And it's very, very tender and very lean. Only reason I can come up with a reason for that, other such examples are in Maryland. You have an apple roast, which is the same thing in Chicago that they call a Scotty roast, which we call a mock tender, or the calico. Your chuck calico. So then brings up our third category, which is one, I don't want to say lying, but a duck by any other name is still a duck. When you take a cut of meat, you take a ribeye here, and you have a gorgeous ribeye. You then take that ribeye, and you take your knife, and you cut off the tail, and you cut off your crescent, or your ribeye cap, whatever you want to call it.
There's also in the kosher world, it's called a lot a surprise. What's the origins of that story?
I'm pretty sure that someone walked in and he looked at the butcher and said, "What are you cutting?" He goes, "Surprise!" So if you take those muscles off, this doesn't make filet mignon. Someone will sell you this as filet mignon, but this is just your ribeye.
Wait, so this is not actually filet mignon from the back half of the animal?
Nope, these are ribeyes, trimmed up nicely.
So the eye of the ribeyes, and they're basically cut at a thicker to make it look like a traditional filet mignon.
Correct. But they're not like filet mignon because filet mignon has a lot less fat.
So to say a lot leaner.
And is a lot more tender. So if you ever have a real filet mignon, you're going to sit there and say, "This is not what I had before." So right now, I could put some string on this, and you'd call it a filet mignon. Well, this is just a ribeye. Your other such cut like that you're going to see commonly
is the restaurant I had last night in Manhattan, my New York strip.
Yep. Our Denver steak,
New York strip,
which is in its own right an amazing cut. People might not have heard of it as much, so people have decided to start calling it a New York strip. Because on the front half of the animal, it's the thing that looks the closest to your New York strip steak. It just is missing your fat on the top. And it doesn't, a New York strip actually has more of a shape of a ribeye because it's the continuation. But
it just tapers.
Yeah. So your Denver steak is really what you're going to find when you go into a butcher case and you say, "Oh, a New York strip steak, that's a Denver steak." At Kosh, we call our Denver steaks because that's what they are.
And where does the Denver come from?
The Denver comes from, excellent question, it comes from underneath the shoulder blade. It's surprising. It's one of these, everyone says chuck is so tough. They can go back and watch our video about when we took apart a cow put it back together with retail cuts. It's one of the top 4 tender muscles in the entire steer. Teres major being probably 3, and our flat irons, which we're going to cut in another episode, are probably number 5. You have some amazing cuts from the chuck. Don't be scared of them, and don't need to call them something else to make them an amazing piece of meat.
Bosh, I get phone calls all the time. I have, for lack of better, a Butterball hotline somehow to my phone. And a lot of people ask me questions like, I don't understand, I grew up kosher meat all the time. I never heard of a Denver or a New York strip. We didn't have this growing up. What I think people don't understand is that previously we would keep these all in the roasts because Jews love to roast, and everything was just take it, set it, forget it, cook the roast out of it.
Also in around 2010, the National Meat Cutters Association spent, I think it was around $20 million researching cuts that we use, how they could be made into better steaks. You know, they went looking at your roasts and what could be cut into steaks instead of being left as roasts. Our flat irons, our Denvers, our tri-tips are all cuts that came out of this research.
This was so great and so educational. I think we should just run through in terms of cooking methods.
So you have right here 4 gorgeous steaks. Your ribeye with everything on it, your ribeyes without everything other than just the central loin, that central muscle, your teres majors, and your Denvers.
So we're going to treat this like I treat any other steak. So flat top, pan, grill, broiler, whichever is your preferred cooking method.
You can reverse sear them, you can straight sear them. The Denvers will hold up the most to higher temperatures. Do not take these teres majors above medium rare. They will dry out. There's almost no fat in them.
Can I make a public service announcement? Don't take meat above medium rare.
Wait.
Okay.
Except when
steaks. Don't take steaks above medium rare. There we go.
Yes, because our asabuca,
we're cooking it all the way.
We're going to want to do a nice braise on that. Use it for a nice soup. Render down your collagen. As London broil, we should be cooking these London broil style, which is high heat to medium rare, cut against the grain. I personally don't think shoulder steaks are your best for London broil because they do tend to be a little tough. I like these cooked sous vide or reverse sear. That way you can cook it a little longer.
Right, but I still had a lot of success of doing this traditionally, 8 to 10 minutes on a side in a broiler or on a pan.
And then just make sure you cut against the grain because otherwise it's going to be inedible.
That's too tough. Bosh, where does one pick up these incredible marble and grain steaks?
All marble and grain products available exclusively from Kosherdotcom.
Amazing. So you just go online and they ship it straight to your door?
Straight to your door, flash frozen. That's all there is to it.
Incredible. I cannot wait to order mine.
Sealed at the top of freshness. And thank you for joining us at Marble and Grain.
See you next time.